to the Mintner method. I'm your host, Andrew Mintner, and on today's video, we are going to break down the Big 12 matchup between Kansas State and Colorado. Now, if you're coming back to the videos, as you can see, I have a ton of tabs up here. So I've been working on a couple other things to kind of give us a more context to what we're looking at overall, make sure we're not missing anything when it comes to analyzing these teams and these matchups as we're getting right into the midway part of the season. So this is kind of a polarizing matchup because we are going to have two teams that do rank top 15 in early downs EPA. So we kind of have to figure out which way we're going to lean based off numerous factors, right? And so this is a matchup that was recommended by a subscriber. So I did have it marked on my list, but I always like to, let people know that I try to get to every video or matchup that is listed. Obviously, if you list 5 or 6 matchups, I can only do a handful of them. I have my own that I'm already working on. So, but I think this matchup is very interesting because if you would have looked at this matchup 3 weeks ago, you would have looked way past it, right? And so when we're looking at Kansas State and Colorado, we're looking at two very polarizing different teams, right? Kansas State is more of a physical smash mouth, play action, 12 personnel type team, whereas Colorado runs primarily 10 personnel on offense, and they're gonna air it out. That's just their method of madness. Now, the thing that is more eye-opening to me is how Colorado has improved since the Nebraska loss. Now, they beat Colorado State, which they were expected to beat. They beat Baylor, and then the huge upset against UCF on the road really kind of opened everybody's eyes to this team can potentially be decent, right? And so as I had said in preseason episodes, I stand by that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in the Big 12, and I still stand by that statement. It's not even close, really. He is the best quarterback in the Big 12. Now, when we're looking at these metrics here, you can see that it's a strength-on-strength type of matchup from the Kansas State offense to the Colorado defense. And I know that's probably, you're probably like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? I've watched Colorado play. They're not great, and that's fine. The eye test is real. But on early downs, they're really good against the run. They just are, and that's Kansas State's biggest strength. Now, when we come over to the offensive side of the ball on vice versa, they're not really good. Colorado is not on early downs. And, Kansas State is pretty average when it comes to early down defense. Now, I know this is kind of shocking to some people because it is shocking to me when I looked at it. I was like, that's got to be kind of a typo, right, or a miss. Something's wrong. I had to recheck the spreadsheets and everything. So what we've been doing is looking at how if these teams match up against Power 5 teams or if these statistics are boosted by playing lesser competition, right? So when we're looking at Colorado's defense, they are boosted up a little bit from some of the group of 5 teams they played, but they still rank 6th in EPA rush allowed on early downs versus Power 5 teams. So that's still a legitimate strength, in my opinion. So I think that kind of holds true, even though their ranking might not be top 15 overall. I think you can kind of say that holds true, right? And so Kansas State, on the other hand, defensively, they've been a little bit better against Power 5 teams, and the main reason for that is just the abysmal game they played against Tulane, which they should have lost. So when we look at the offensive side of the ball, Colorado is pretty similar on offense, right? Sitting here with 87th overall, 91st passing, pretty similar, right? Kansas State, on the other hand, they're first in overall in EPA rush attempt EPA rushing on early downs and 12th in overall early downs, right? So they're really similar. They kind of play, uh, to their competition, to be perfectly honest. Now, a couple of things when we're looking at the advanced statistics side of the ball, it's pretty eye opening and not surprising. Like I said, Kansas State is a physical team. They are going to try to out physical you, 16th in stuff rate, second in offensive line yards, seventh in front seven havoc rate allowed. And they're again very good at rushing the ball. Now the flip side to that is not explosive when throwing the ball, which is not necessarily a gigantic big deal. And Colorado's defense is average, right? They are decent in certain areas here, but this is not the defense that was like abysmal last year. Where you're like, oh fuck, we can't get off the field ever. And being 24th in overall havoc rate and 28th in front seven havoc rate, that's pretty solid for this unit that was not expected to be good this year, but they did have a ton of returning production, and that returning production is showing out and is doing really well. Now, when we go to the opposite side of the ball, Colorado, there's not a lot of, surprise here, right? 65th in overall efficiency. They are about average when it comes to explosiveness, and Kansas State really struggles at limiting explosiveness. But again, they are a trench team, 12th in stuff rate, 16th in defensive line yards. But one thing, obviously that stands out here is that Kansas State is just not good against the pass, and that's literally what Colorado is going to want to do all game. That's what they always want to do, because their primary personnel is 10 personnel. And so they're 99th and predicted points per attempt passing, and then 123rd in passing explosiveness allowed. Now, when you're looking at Colorado, you're like, okay, well, yeah, but they're not elite at passing. And yeah, that is, factually correct. But when we break it down to like a matchup standpoint, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, it can really show how they can take advantage of this situation. So I have this is a new spreadsheet that I haven't showed you guys before. It says Mickey Mouse versus Big Dog EPA. So this is from an offensive standpoint, right? Mickey Mouse routes are behind the line of scrimmage throws and short throws, which are 1 to 9 yards. I call them Mickey Mouse routes because they're just like, they're layups, they're like cute, right? And so when you're looking at Colorado, the one thing is they cannot be throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage on these bubble screens and shit like that. They got to move it down the field. They're horrendous at that, right? And so, that's one thing they just cannot afford to do, right? And when we look at big dog throws, which are medium throws and deep attempts, which is, you have 10 to 19 yards for a medium attempt and then 20 plus for a deep attempt. When we look at those, like Colorado is actually really good in these areas. They just need to throw it more in these areas. And that all comes down to, I think, time in the pocket for Shedeur Sanders, time to throw, not being under as much pressure. And I think they're just they're getting to the point where they're getting better at that as the year is going on. So as you can see, they're 40th in medium EPA and 15th in deep ball EPA. And this is not shocking to anybody who has watched Shedeur Sanders throw the deep ball. When he has time and he can throw the deep ball, he's arguably the best deep ball thrower in college football. I'd say maybe him and Jalen Milroe, if I had to say myself. So this is not shocking, okay? So I'm going to show you the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to look at Kansas State here and how they're not good in the secondary. And I just want to highlight this more, okay? They cannot be throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. That is literally Kansas State's only strength, and their secondary is defending that type of play. Now, even in the short area, 1 to 9 yards, they're 107th 7th in EPA per short attempt. Then what's even worse is when we get to the big dog attempts, 69th in the medium depth and 51st in deep rank. And I know you're like, okay, well, that's like not bad at all. That's like average. Yeah, but then you have to kind of see how we get to those averages, okay? When guarding a wide receiver who is out wide, so not a slot wide receiver, like an X receiver, they are 116th in EPA when guarding the X receiver. And who is the primary X receiver in Colorado's offense? Well, welcome to this other spreadsheet I have for you. That is going to be none other than Travis Hunter. He is lining up at wide 91% of the time. Okay? That is a monster. Like, he is the alpha on this offense. Last year, it was kind of like, oh, well, he's kind of gimmicky. Nah, it's not that. He's ran 216 routes. 98 of them have been, or 198 of them, excuse me, have been wide routes. He's only ran 8% of the time from the slot. Okay, and so you're like, all right, well, if they're really bad against wide, they must be really good against the slot, right? Well, yes, they are. They're 34th against the slot. Now, Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to have something to say about that, I would assume, as he is one of the premier slot receivers. I'd say he's probably arguably top 10 in all of college football as a slot receiver. But they are going to struggle on the boundary outside the numbers in this game. And so that is really where it comes down to, right? How do we see this playing out? Now, both teams are going to have equal amount of rest. They both come off byes, and they both come off big wins. Colorado just beat UCF. Kansas State just beat Oklahoma State, which doesn't really look like that much of a win. But coming off of the BYU debacle, it is a good win, right? And so going into Boulder here, this is going to be a huge game for both teams, for both aspirations for the Big 12. And I just personally, I think that they're going to struggle against this type of spread out offense. Kansas State played, Arizona, who I really like Fafita as a quarterback, and McMillan is probably the best wide receiver in football. But that's not the same type of style that Colorado brings. This spread out down the field attack is similar to what Tulane has thrown out there, and they struggled with that. And so basically for me, I just think they're going to take advantage of the matchups they have out wide with Travis Hunter. His props are definitely in play here. And I think Colorado at plus 3.5 seems short, but I think it's accurate. I think they are definitely in play here as they are more talented at the skill positions that matter, that, swing more momentum, quarterback, receiver. Now, obviously, Kansas State, they are going to be the more physical team in the trenches, and if they apply pressure to Sanders on a consistent basis, it's going to be a long day. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Colorado is going to come out. I think they are in prime position to put up a big number here and really take advantage of Kansas State and their deficiencies in the secondary. All right, so that's going to be it for today's episode. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, or comment on the video. Share it with your friends and family, anybody who you think would be interested. And as always, if you have any recommendations or suggestions for a game that you want to be featured, just comment it. I'll see if I can get around to it. I have about 12 games that I'm looking at right now. I'm going to try to get to every single one of them in the next 2 days. No guarantees, but yeah. So as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.